Cultivating effective communication. When I talk about communication, one of the things that I like to emphasize is that every time we speak, there are 6 messages that take place. There's what you think you say. There's what you actually say. There's what the other person hears you say. Then there's what they think they heard you say. And then what they say they think they heard you say. And then what you hear them say about what they think they heard you say in the first place. And when you add to that, not just the actual words, but the tone of voice and the body language, it's very challenging to communicate. And if you add in other things like culture and maybe even language, those barriers just heighten the challenges that exist when it comes to trying to communicate effectively. One of the number one, if not the number one issue that I hear as I travel across the country and talk to congregations is this problem of communication. How do we communicate effectively? And a lot of times when it comes to a leadership perspective, it's what do we communicate? What do we not communicate? And how do we communicate what we do need to communicate in a way that people are going to understand what we want them to? Because even in a room like this, I can say something, and the challenge is that what's heard at this table may be different than what's heard at this table. And this table, and its potential of being 11 different messages that are received. So it's very difficult sometimes to communicate what a person wants to be understood and the takeaways from that. So we're going to begin a little differently this time. Instead of me starting by giving you information, we're going to start with you taking just a couple minutes. Don't want to take a long time because the next exercise is going to take a little longer. But just a couple of minutes, write out 1 or 2 ways that we can improve communication. What would you say would help improve communication in the church? We'll keep it in that realm. Within the church today, what would be 1 or 2 ways that we can improve communication? I can already tell you, you guys got too many at the table. They need help and they need help. So y'all just shift 1 or 2 over this direction. And if you're sitting alone, come join us up here. We'd love to have your help. And so join the table. Anyone that has just a few sitting at it so that we can all do that. Let's just take a couple minutes, write out 1 or 2 ways that we can improve communication. Here, give us one of the answers that you have. How can we improve communication?
Listen to understand.
Didn't hear it. Listen to understand. Oh, is that a joke? Sorry.
Do one here now. Yeah.
Listen to understand. We're going to talk about that in just a few moments, but listening. We're going to improve communication. You've got to learn to listen.
And also clarify.
Oh, you don't only get 1. You don't get 2. Because everybody's got to get 2.
I got to get my
What do you guys have?
So direct communication.
Direct.
So that could happen in a couple different ways. We go a couple different ways. So from let's say from an elder's perspective, sometimes, or not just the elders, but sometimes we as a group assume that everybody knows what's going on. Instead of going to someone and saying, "Hey, can you do this?" or "Can you help me with this?" And on the flip side of that, if I'm hearing someone telling something and I don't understand what exactly they're trying to tell me, I need to make sure to clarify. Okay, I think that you're trying to do this, but help me understand. So there's 2 different ways about that.
Sure. I do, and I think it kind of does into what you were saying. See, you got it up there anyway. But see, the idea of being direct, and instead of assuming that the other person maybe can read our minds and think, why don't they come help me? Instead of just saying, would you help me? And be direct about that. Very good. I like that. Give me one you guys have.
If you're going to point out a problem or a criticism, be ready to provide a solution. Don't just walk up and drop a bomb, and then they ask, well, how would he do it different? You go, I shut up. I remember one time my mom, this is a story, and where they were going to church, that they didn't have a leadership in pretty fast. My dad was out of town at the time, and they were having a after church something getting together out there. And the women had all this ready. She went around and asked some of the men to lead prayer before they ate. And none of the men wanted to do it. And so my mom got kind of mad. And she went ahead and set a prayer. And she told me about it. And she said, well, what do you do different? And I said, you didn't. Who says you got to have an out-loud prayer before you eat? I said, everybody could have just prayed to themselves and eat. So the solution was not to do that. You know what I'm saying? So you have to really. And so I didn't just tell her it was probably inappropriate, but said, you don't have to do something the way it's always been that way. And ended up doing it in an inappropriate way.
And you know, it's challenging in the church today is there are a lot of people, and it's not bad for us to see the things that need to be fixed. But don't just point out what needs to be fixed, provide a solution to fix it and be a part of that solution. I love that. And I think that's a great thing that needs to be, you know, if we're improving communication, don't just point out what needs to be fixed, provide a solution for that. That's good.
You know, and if you do that, when you walk up to that person next time, they're going to be happy you're walking up.
Absolutely.
Because
very
they
good.
know you're there to help them, not just grunt.
Yeah, that's great thought. What do you guys have here? I love that, delegation. That was communication right there. Did you get that?
We took a more broad approach instead of maybe elder to deacon, deacon to member, or parent to child approach. We took how do we improve communication to the entire congregation. And so there's so many means of communication. I think we have a breakdown on how that gets distributed. So maybe someone in charge, that if anything needs to be communicated, it goes to one person. That person is then the one that's blasts that out, whether that's phone call, email, bulletin, Facebook, all the above.
So can I set it up saying assign one person with that task of making sure everything is communicated and everything?
We were saying that maybe the ministry is significant enough that that's something that a deacon could be in charge of, a deacon of communication.
So have a deacon, that's his role. I mean, he's the one through which everything flows to communicate, to use all the mediums that are available. And so whether that's Facebook or texting or email or from the pulpit or the bulletin, he's the one that the communication is going to flow through so that it's communicated the same and consistently with everyone. Good. What did you guys have there?
Oh, we wrote, we need feedback on what has been communicated, either from the speaker or from the listener.
Let me tell you how critical this is. I have two different couples, well now there's one, but a couple that I've been working with, they're having problems in their marriage. Almost inevitably, the problem that exists in marriage can stem somewhat from communication or the lack thereof. And one of the things that I ask people to do is exactly what he just said, is that when somebody speaks, you pause long enough to let them say, now what I'm hearing you say is this. That would eliminate so much miscommunication. And it's hard to do that. Because if you're like me, I'm already formulating in my mind what I'm going to say back, and I'm just waiting for you to draw breath. And when you draw breath, that's my cue to jump in and start giving you my 2 cents worth. I can't tell you how many times that's caused problems between me and my wife. And she's like, okay, I'm done. I'm like, no, finish. She goes, no, you're not listening. And I'm like, yes, I am. She goes, tell me what I just said. Well, you're talking about Jesus? No. But see, that's the problem. We don't pause long enough to listen with the intent that we're going to give some feedback. This is what I'm hearing you say. And then that gives you an opportunity to say, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. Then tell me, what was it you were saying? So that there's understanding that takes place. That's great, great thought. Giving feedback. What'd you guys have?
I like the old adage, say what you mean and mean what you say.
Okay. Would that be correct?
Yeah.
Kind of correct?
Communication, clarify, just all of those.
Okay. All right. Say what you mean and mean what you say. I like that. That used to be the comment that was always made in Bible class. Somebody would say, Fred, read verse 3. Fred would read verse 3. They'd say, you got a comment on that? I said, no. I think it says what it means what it says. And I'm like, okay.
Repetitive, 5 times.
Ah. Repeat it 5 times. Because when you do that, and if it's the same every time you repeat it, chances are the message is going to get through. Good, like that. Far back table. What do you got for me?
Well, we came up with this in terms of to communicate with the whole church. Of course, we discussed how that all the churches have bulletins, emails, Facebook, regular announcements, but all of those things can be overlooked and cannot be paid attention to. If there is something major to communicate, probably if the elders go up and make special announcements or specially visualized announcements tends to get people's attention more. Like, oh, hey, we better pay attention to this. So clarification and special announcements, not just the normal announcements, tend to. But like Darryl said, and then do that 5 times.
So this is one of those situations where you're talking, my mind's going, I got something I want to add. Can you imagine? This is really out of the realm. But if when somebody got up to make an announcement, if you really wanted people to pay attention, if you just had a group of people that when they were starting to talk, they'd go, oh. I mean, loud enough that everybody in the congregation would be like, oh, what did I miss? I mean, just have a group of people that you know when you're about to say something, just have that group kind of point at and they go, oh.
Just come across the speaker.
Oh, wow. I mean, something, and everybody's going to be like, what? Because you know how it is. Somebody gets up to make announcements, everybody's still fumbling with their stuff, they're not paying attention. And then it's like, why did you not know about the men's offensive? We announced it 35 times. I never pay attention to the announcements. I mean, we've had it in the bulletin. We sent out an email. All that stuff. We got to find a way. I think it's good. Make a specialty announcement. Say, look, we've got something specific we want to address. And so here it is. Give me one you guys have here.
Communicate love.
Communicate in love. You know, that is so critical. Because if it's perceived to not be communicated in love, it may not be received well. So that's a great thought. Yeah. What you guys have?
Well, a lot of our stuff is getting a little derivative at this point. It's very connected to everything.
Yeah, you guys kind of get the other side of that one.
That's what we know so far.
Okay.
Aside from brevity is the soul of wit. Would be think before you speak. Would be thoughtful. If you're gonna take the time to communicate something, don't just put thought into it. Think before you speak.
Very good. I'll never forget, I was in high school. And not all high schoolers were like me. I don't know, I guess I never thought before I speak or spoke. And my brother set me down, he's 8 years older than me. And I don't know what I'd said, but that was the thing he told me right there. He said, you need to shut up, and you need to listen, and you need to think before you speak. And that made a big impression on me at a young age. And not that I always do that, but I think that's critical when it comes to improving communication. If we would just stop and think, okay, is what I'm about to say offensive? Is what I'm about to say hurtful? Is what I'm about to say going to build up? Is it going to encourage? I mean, when you look at New Testament, I mean, Paul talks a lot about the things that we say, and that we need to speak for the purpose of edification. Let your speech always be seasoned with salt, is the idea. And if we would do that, we'd learn how to respond to people. It makes such a big difference.
And I think people really pick up and appreciate the effort that you put into the thoughtful aspect. I mean, it's not, there's lots of people saying lots of things all the time in our lives, and, you know, we can kind of identify this person's thought a lot about this, a lot of, you know,
Yeah.
this isn't just kind of a stream of junk coming out and rolling around me. This is something that's, you know, I need to pause and pay attention.
Good, very good. Yes.
Something you just hit on there thought occurred to me earlier. If you don't really care enough about what you're trying to share, you're not going to share it, or at least you're not going to share it effectively. We share things more effectively when we're really passionate about it.
Yeah, that's good. Good thought. Go ahead.
Well, I just heard the other day, I thought it was interesting, they said the naval rules for speech making is be clear, be brief, be seated.
Yeah, my dad used to say it this way: stand up to be seen, speak up to be heard, sit down to be appreciated. I always thought that was pretty classic. So, were you guys doing something different, or were you helping them? Okay. Did anybody, you got something that I didn't have? Okay.
What's the communication that they're wanting to pass along to the audience, let's say? Coming from a small congregation, I think it's important that you give updates, because there may have been someone that wasn't present when the original thing was brought up or communicated to the congregation. So not everything has to be updated, but depending on what the circumstance is, you need to keep people aware that either this program is still continuing or just periodic updates until the feat is accomplished, or maybe it needs another injection of a positive influence or something that will continue.
Yeah, very good thought. Anybody have something different that we didn't have up here? I know you guys have the KISS method. Y'all know what that is, right? Keep it simple, silly. So, but keeping it simple, concise, I mean, all those things. Anything else other than this? Because I want to move us into another area. It's going to be just a little uncomfortable for some of you. It's going to be fun for others, but it's going to be good overall. And so I want us to think about how we can improve communication. And in order to do that, we're going to have to develop some effective listening skills. So here's what I want us to do. I want you to pair up with someone that you don't know quite as well as you do others. Don't just go and pick a buddy. You know, I've known this guy for 30 years. We hunt together. Don't do that. Find somebody that you don't know as well as you do others. Now again, I know this is going to be a little uncomfortable, but there's a purpose to what we're going to do. I want you to get chairs, and you're going to start off sitting back to back, like this. So you sit on one side, and the person you're going to talk to is sitting on the other side, facing the other direction. So take a second here, pick out somebody that you don't know as well as everybody else. Young and old. I don't want the young guys sitting together. Young and old. But I want you to pair up and get back to back with somebody. And you can take up space here in front if you want, or kind of where you're at, and kind of go in the back. But get paired up, and then I'll tell you what we're going to do next with this. You're going to have 1 minute each. And what you're going to do first is one person is going to speak, and the other person cannot speak at all. During that minute, you can't ask any questions. You can't say anything. You're just looking the other direction. So you're going to be looking this way and speaking, and you're going to have 1 minute, and then we're going to reverse that. The other person will speak, and you have to just listen. You can't say anything. You can't respond. You're just listening. Okay? So here's, somebody have a question? Yes.
Talk about what?
I'm about to tell you. So for 1 minute, what you're going to say is, if you could be any animal, what would that animal be, and why would you be that animal? So you're going to have 1 minute to do that, and again, the person sitting to your back cannot respond. They can't say anything. You're just talking. You're looking this direction. You're just talking. Okay? And I'll tell you when we're going to start. And you'll have 1 minute. And then I'll just say switch. And then the other person gets to do the same. Tell about whatever animal it is you would be if you could choose to be an animal. And what would that animal be and why? Okay? Okay. Now, apart from the fact that with 70 men talking at the same time, it's noisy. As the one who is speaking, how did it make you feel to talk about something and the other person, you don't know if they're listening or not? They're standing and looking in the other direction, or sitting and looking in the other direction. How did it make you feel as the speaker?
It felt awkward.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know, it's just, you looked like you were talking, just.
You're not getting any cues.
There's no engagement.
Okay, no getting cues. What?
There's no engagement.
No engagement.
There's no interaction.
Yeah, yeah,
Face to face.
yeah. Okay, over here.
Not sure if they're even hearing me.
Yeah.
Wasted speech.
Ah, very good. Yes.
Oh, it feels like you're talking to yourself.
Now, apart from the fact that I've been known to do that. But isn't that weird? I mean, it does seem odd if you're talking and it's like, I'm just talking to myself. I don't know if he's listening. I can't tell. There is no interaction.
It made me want to say something that would make people hoping they would listen.
Ah, yes.
No eye contact.
No eye contact. Boy, that's tough too, isn't it? Yes.
Kind of pressure that's put on you in case this person really asks me later, what did I say? I should have been listening.
So what kind of animal did you want to be? No, I'm just kidding. Yes.
For me, it's just relatively weird.
Yes, it is. It is quite weird, to say the least.
There's also, and it might be because of the topic, there's also kind of some pressure to like fill the void. It's like, I told him about the only 3 dumb things I could think of for why I would be an elephant. And now I'm going to burn the it's like being on TV. It's like, keep it going.
Well, this is kind of the fun part of it. We're going to step this a little more personal as we go along, but we have a couple more we're going to do. Yes.
I think it was hard to keep on talking about what you would want to be and why for that period of time, because I only had a few things that.
And a minute's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah.
A minute takes a long time, especially when you're talking about something. Somebody had their hand up back here.
We do the same thing every time we talk on the phone to somebody. We can't see their face, we can't see their expression, whether they're listening to us or not. It's sort of the same thing.
That's why my kids use FaceTime. I'm like, can we not just talk on the phone? But no, they want to FaceTime. They want to see, because it's weird to be talking. We don't know if that person's listening. A lot of times, and this has gotten me into trouble, I'll set the phone over here on speaker and I'm typing. And if that person ever hears, like my wife has heard me one time, and she just hung up. She's like, she could hear me clicking. She's like, you're not listening, you're working, I'm done. And she just hung up. It's like, if I don't mean more to you than that, then we don't need to talk. And I thought, ooh, that hurt. But it made a good point. So I guarantee you now, when she calls, I put the computer away. I do not type.
I thought it was weird because where I was looking at Chase, but I was supposed to be talking to him, which made me kind of in a confusion state.
Okay, so let's do this different. Let's turn around now and face each other. Listen to what we got to do. This one's a little different. I want you to face each other, kind of get close enough where you can kind of hear. But here's the thing. This time, One person is going to be speaking. The other person cannot look at them. Do not look at them. I want you to do this. I want you to kind of go. You can look at anything but them, but don't look at them. And here's what I want you to say. I want you to talk about somebody that has been an influence in your life and why they've been such a great influence in your life. What have they done that was an influence in your life? And what about that person that stood out to you as to why they were influential? Those kinds of things. So that's what the one person is going to be talking about. The other person, you can't look at them. Do anything but that. Just look at the ceiling, look at the floor, look all around. I mean, everywhere but that person. Don't look at them. We got it? So we're going to do the same thing. 1 minute each, and then I'll say swap here in a minute. So, this time, you're face to face with each other, but as a speaker, how does it make you feel when you're talking to someone and that's what the person is doing? They're looking at anything but you.
Unimportant, distracted.
Unimportant, distracted.
More than the speaker feeling awkward when you're trying to listen and you're not paying attention and not looking at them. It's hard for me to listen without looking.
Good observation. Yep.
When I was talking to him, I found myself stop talking just because I saw him talking to Dave. I don't know if I just stopped talking. I was like, but he's supposed to be doing that. It's like he's not paying attention.
Yeah.
He would they would be looking around and you could see him like kind of repositioning their head and keep going. And it's just like,
Well, and Dave pulled out his cell phone. And I thought that's very pointed to the problem that we face today when we're trying to talk to people. That was good.
I thought it was just kind of aggravating to me because whenever you're trying to tell someone something like serious, they're just looking around, just not paying attention. I thought it was a little aggravating.
Yes, I would agree. Any other thoughts?
I think for especially the topic this time, someone that's been an encouragement to you,
Ah.
them not paying attention to what you're saying is really hard, and it's a lack of encouragement.
Yeah, very good.
I know I shouldn't, but sometimes I'll be talking to my dad and he'll have his phone out or something, and I'm just trying to hit him or something.
That's right.
That's all.
It's like pay attention.
Yeah.
Try to see if not paying attention to them. Did they believe you while you was looking at them? Believe, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Expression, you know.
Great thought.
teachers say this all the time. While we were in his high school class, like it's a Wednesday night, and we'd be fiddling around and stuff, and he would just stop, like, and like look at us, and then he'll be like, "Are y'all done doing what y'all do?" I finally get it now, like.
And here, let me explain this from a leadership perspective. You're going to have people as a leader who come to you and they want to talk to you. And as difficult as it is, they tend to do that when things are going on. There are people coming into the church building or people are leaving the church building. And if we're not careful, if you would stand up, we have the tendency to do this. So we shake hands, how you doing? It's good to see you, how things going? And so you're starting to talk to me and tell me about that, and I'm kind of looking and saying, and I'm wondering who else I need to shake hands with. Now that's a difficult thing for a person who's trying to tell you something, and what you're communicating to them is you're not important. You don't have value to me. I know that what you're saying is important to you, but it doesn't mean anything to me. And so as a leader, and one of the things that I have seen done when I've gone in to talk with people, sometimes we may have to close the lid on the laptop or turn the computer off. Sometimes we have to turn the TV off, or it may be that we just need to say, what you say is important, and I want to listen to you, so can we step over here into a private room where I can focus, because there's so many people in here, and just let them know. There's so many people, and I really want to hear what you say, can we step over here? And remove ourselves from that, because it really is distracting. And it's discouraging, it can be frustrating. As a person who is speaking, how that makes us feel when the other person is not paying attention. We need to learn that lesson as a leader. Because when people speak to us, we need to look them in the eyes and we need to listen until they're done. Because the moment we take our eyes off of them and we start looking at something else, then we're telling them, even though it may not be the reality, what we're communicating is you're not important and you don't have value to me. And we gotta fix that.
In the day and age of the cell phone, you know, we all think it's what's the word? Anyway, if you're talking to someone and they stop answering the phone.
Yes. Yes.
Very interrupting.
You know, I appreciate the fact Neil and I went to lunch yesterday. He left his phone in the truck. I don't know if he did that on purpose or not, but I thought, you know, we need to do that kind of thing. If we go out to lunch with someone or if we're spending time with somebody, they should know that they're valuable enough that we're not going to take the cell phone. The people who would call us, unless we're expecting a possible emergency type call or something, man, turn it off. Leave the text messaging till later. You can text them later. You can call them later. I mean, all that kind of stuff. Now I realize there are emergency situations. That's different, but
If you're expecting a call, tell them that.
Let them know.
I got my phone with me. I got a guy. I got to meet with this evening. I got to catch this call. Explain it.
yes, yeah, just communicate it. That's exactly right.
I think this is also closely related to interacting with somebody who's obviously listening to respond. Like, you can tell, I don't have your full attention the way that I want, not because you're, zoning out, but because you're like waiting for your chance to jump in. And sometimes it's like, it's natural and it's fun because you guys are having back and forth. Sometimes, and especially if you've got a thought that you want to get communicated, and it's important to you that you get that message across before somebody kind of goes back. I mean, I do it to my wife, and we do it to each other all the time.
Sure.
But it's, it's like being distracted. It's one of those things like, let's have an effective back and forth.
Right. It's great. Okay, so here's the next step. You're going to face each other still. This time, the person who is listening, you get to look at them. But this time, you don't get to speak. You just kind of go, You can use some kind of an M sound, you know what I mean? Just kind of that, almost like, well, that's somewhat interesting. So just, you just use an M sound. But you can look at them, and the person who is speaking, what I want you to do is share with the other person something that you're excited about that's coming in the next couple of weeks or maybe the next month. It's something you're really looking forward to, like a fishing trip or like turkey hunting or whatever it is. But think about something that you're excited about. Maybe getting married. Oh, sorry. Something that's coming up that you're excited about, you're looking forward to it, and so you share that with the other person. You can look at them and you can listen to them, but you just kind of, You know how that works. So the same thing, about a minute each, something you're looking forward to that you're sharing, and then in a minute I'll tell you to switch. Was it a little better this time? Yeah. How do you feel as the speaker this time?
I thought it was a lot better.
Okay.
Because, they could not speak.
I got your full attention.
Ah.
Yeah, attention. I got your attention. I had eye contact.
Very good.
I ran out though, after I'd said so much, I'm like, I don't know what else he might want to hear about this thing that I'm looking forward to, so I kind of ran out.
Great thought. Great thought. We're going to come back to that in a second.
I was kind of agreeing with him, what he said, and also he kind of looked like he was like just staring at me because he said to.
Almost like he was looking through you. That's a good observation.
You got their attention, but it was just, it was nice to have them contributing to it, but it was kind of like they were just like, yeah.
So you don't really know if they're interested, but you know they're at least looking at you. Yeah, that's a good thought. Somebody back here.
As Terry and I talked, when you look at each other, the emotions there. You can tell he's concerned about what I'm sharing with him, and I'm concerned about what he's sharing with me. I think that shows love. I think that shows admiration in the person that you're talking with.
Okay.
To be excited about what he's talking about. and to be excited about what I'm talking about.
Good. All right. Good thought.
When you're trying to talk about like the subject about what's coming up, all they said was, and there was nothing to keep going with. That you didn't go back and forth about what you were talking about. It was just, I'm going to do this and this.
Very good.
Eventually you run out.
Very good. Yes. Yes.
Like what Dawson said, it's still not a back and forth conversation. Like you said yesterday, how you would just walk past people and say, like, you're leading prayer tomorrow, so they couldn't say anything like make up an excuse. That's kind of what it is. It's like you're talking to yourself, but there's a person in front of you. It's like there's like someone that's like reading a book in front of you, and you're talking to them, and they're just like you're just going, just like at random moments.
Yes. Good. Good thought. Yes.
It's still empty because there's no affirmation from the other person.
Good.
You can't tell if it's getting through or not, or if it's been received the way you want it to be received.
Right. Okay, with that in mind, let's do this a little differently, this last one. So you're still facing each other. This time, the person who is speaking, I want you to tell about an event in your life that changed your life. And how excited you were about that. What was that event that was a turning point in your life that really made a difference in your life? And try to take about 30 seconds, if that long, telling about it. But the other person now is going to ask questions. Ask about what they're saying. Ask, find some way to get them to talk more about it. Engage them. Affirm them. Let them know that you're listening to them. So this time, as the person is speaking, tell about an event or something that happened in your life that was a major turning point for you, a life-changing kind of thing. And the other person engage them, ask questions about that, get more information, try to get them to continue to talk about that. We're going to do the same thing in about a minute, and then I'll say switch, and then we'll do the same thing for another minute. Okay? How much different was that for you?
It's good.
You want more time? You want
more time?
More time to talk? More time.
Like you said, and also it was more engaging and like in depth and stuff. And it felt a lot better.
Very good.
I think if you're the listener in that situation, it takes a lot of energy to not just do all the passive, active listening stuff, but also to think about meaningful, thoughtful response. There are cues. It's like kind of like interviewing somebody. Like, when he would say something, it's not that he was running out of stuff to say, but you don't want to just go off the wall with some random thing. You want it to be constructive in the conversation. And it takes energy.
It does.
It has to be engaged.
Very good.
Also, when you're able to have input, when you're listening and able to have input, it seems like the communication is more effective. And also, when you're able to add questions, or it just broadens out the scope of knowledge you can get from the conversation.
Yes, very good.
I learned 3 or 4 new things about him that I didn't know.
Amen. I tell you, one of the reasons that I do this to where you pair up with somebody you don't know as well, because now you know something very special. You've shared something special about yourself to someone else that didn't know you as well, that now it's going to create a better, stronger bond between you. And so if we're going to create effective communication and cultivate effective communication, especially as leaders, we have to take the time to get with those people that we don't know as well, and that we have to engage them in ways that will help us develop that kind of relationship with them. And how powerful that is. When you leave this retreat, you're going to be able to say what you just said. I know something about somebody I didn't know before, and that's helped you to build a relationship, which is what leadership is all about. Now, let me share with you a couple of things. You guys want to come back around here. But when we talk about improving our communication, I think it starts right there with developing better listening skills. So we've got to find ways that we can communicate more effectively, learn to be better listeners, engaging listeners, that we're taking the time to ask those questions. And I want to spend just a few moments in talking about how do we learn to ask the right questions? And what questions do we need to ask? Because there are all kinds of questions. Well, Johns Hopkins University School of Education put out four thoughts that I thought were really good about thinking in regards to what type of questions can we ask. And what they said, first of all, is we ask literal questions. We're actually reading the lines. We're listening to what the person is actually saying. And so we ask a question specifically about what we've heard. The second is what they call interpretive questions. That's kind of reading between the lines. It's kind of like, so what I'm hearing is this and this, but are you saying this? So we're kind of reading between the lines. So we're asking a question in regards to that. The third is critical. That's kind of reading beyond the lines. So I know you're saying these things, but what I'm thinking is happening is something beyond that. And then the last is what they call creative, and that's kind of reading outside the lines and being able to come up with things that we may want to think or that we are creating that they are talking about. But asking questions, and there are all kinds. There are rhetorical questions and there are interrogative questions. I mean, there are all questions to get continue to talk. If we're more concerned about people hearing us than we are listening to them, it's going to be a losing. It has to be about hearing them. Because when people feel like they are heard and that they are understood, they will follow you wherever you go. We have to create that kind of value when it comes to communication. And then the other is identifying relationship expectations. We've talked about this in a number of different ways and helping to outline and identify what those expectations are in the relationship are going to be huge when it comes to improving the ability for us to communicate with others. Because you know as well as I do that the relationship that we have with our closest friends is different than the relationship that we have with people at church that we see once a week. Or that we have with our family. My brother, my sisters, and my parents, we had a different relationship, and so we communicated. The expectations in that relationship were different when we communicated than with my best friend, or with my wife, or with people at church. I think you understand what I'm talking about. So identify those expectations, and it will help improve communication. Have you ever noticed the middle three letters of the word heart? You see, we have to listen with our ears, and maybe even with our eyes, but more importantly, we need to listen with our heart. And that's what the center of heart is all about, is listening and learning to be good listeners. I want to share something with you, and then we're going to take a break for lunch and enjoy some great food. Patrick Ledden, if you're on LinkedIn, probably you can find connection with his material. He's one of those corporate leadership guys that has done an incredible amount of writing, but he also does a lot of blogs that just little short lessons that involve leadership. And he talked about smart leaders seek and listen to these three voices. And when I saw it, I thought somehow I've got to incorporate that into this material about communication. Because from a leadership perspective, it's important for us to know the voices that we need to listen to. Number one, we need to listen to the voice of truth. Now, I'm not talking about necessarily biblical truth. Obviously, we know we need to listen to that. But here's what happens. We all make mistakes. And we need to listen to people when they come to us when we've made those mistakes or we're facing challenges in our life. And there are some people that are just going to come in, they're just trying to really advance their own agenda, if you will. And even though they may be telling you the truth, it's more about an agenda they're trying to advance. And it's pretty rare to find that person that really is just trying to make you better. But when you have that person in your life, you need to listen to them. That voice of truth, that really helps in that regards. The second is the voice of encouragement. And, you know, the challenge is that you don't want just someone who's trying to make light of the situation. They're not trying to in some way trying to excuse what's going on. They realize the gravity of maybe something that's happened, but they also know that you need to be able to get up and move on. And that person that has that voice of encouragement can say, look, I know this was a bad thing, and it happened. But now it's time we've got to move forward. And that happens a lot. And so we need to listen to those voices of encouragement that say, look, I know this was bad, and we can fix it, but we got to be able to move forward. You can either let it defeat you, or you can build from it and move forward. And then the last voice is the voice of challenge. I have a good friend out in Denver, Doug McNary. He's a retired CEO of Western Union. And one of his lines he used to say when he'd come in and teach leadership class was, everybody in the room agrees somebody's not needed. And there's a lot of truth to that. Because how does that challenge us? I mean, if everybody is just a yes man, then you really don't know if what you're doing and how you're communicating, the way you're moving is the right direction. And sadly, a lot of times in the corporate world, and I guess sometimes even in the church, a person can get up and they can say, we need to do this, we need to do this, and everybody's saying yes, yes, yes. And then when they leave the room, they have conversations outside the room. And those can be very damaging. It's kind of like, I can't believe they want to do this. That's not going to work. This is impossible. And they start telling all that stuff outside the room instead of telling it to the person. The thing is if everybody in the room agrees, you may not have the right people in the room. Because you got to have people who will challenge you in what you're saying. And it's like, have you considered this? That's one of my favorite things. When I come up with an idea, I've got 3 or 4 people that I will call and I'll bounce that idea off of, and they'll say, but have you considered this? And inevitably it's like, no, don't tell me that. I don't want to hear that. Because it challenges me. And yet that's what I need. Because if everybody just agreed with everything I thought or said, it's going to be a pretty dull place. I need people who challenge me. And so the voice of truth, the voice of encouragement, and that voice of challenge. The person that's going to push us just a little bit beyond maybe something we haven't thought about. Because I'm always amazed at the wisdom of even young people. The things they've learned, the things that they've studied, the things they've seen is stuff that I haven't. And just like the exercises we've been doing, you guys are sharing stuff I never would have thought of. And I would have never learned that had we not had the opportunity to share that in this environment. So listen to those 3 voices, and it will make a big difference. And so we're going to take a break. I know we've kind of run a little bit long on this session. We've got, all right? So it's lunch at noon? Okay, so we've got a little bit of time to break and visit. I don't know if there's anything planned or just stretching legs, whatever you want to do. But we'll eat. We'll come back at 1 o'clock. And then we'll have our last session this afternoon, talk about creating a place where people thrive.
We talk all the time about effective communication, and you have not used that classic line from Cool Hand Luke. What we have here,
you know, there are some things that just need to be left unsaid.